Good morning. It is Thursday, October the 24th, and this is The Drill. And thank you. I am Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, because I'm the only one who makes the presumption for the status quo. My podcast is about being a true conservative and using true conservatism to beat the left each and every day. My podcast is made possible by Spreaker.com. It can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. My email address is storytimes@hotmail.com. I'm on Twitter at Ronald Hardgrove and on Facebook at The Drill. I'm not a professional. I'm not a lawyer, doctor, or professor. I have an associate's degree and am one of the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. Politically speaking, I'm a registered independent. By listening to my conscience, making the presumption for the status quo, and ignoring arbitrary claims, I will not only win in the battle of socialism against socialism, I will never lose. The purpose of my podcast is to explain the difference between issues-based conservatism and true or real conservatism and why it matters. Today I'm going to explain why returning to the gold standard is truly conservative, discuss more about socialized medicine, and explain the opioid crisis. All that when I come back. Thank you very much. Welcome back. We must return to the gold standard, and we must do that for one good reason, because Keynesian economics has failed. The goal of Keynesian economics was to get rid of large swings in the economy, the so-called boom and bust cycle. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard and put the world on a Keynesian system, and nothing has changed. I also wanted to preface this by saying that first we make the presumption for the status quo. So in this case, it's Keynesian economics, and we ask what's wrong with Keynesian economics, and that's where we get to the point where we realize, well, Keynesian economics doesn't work. That's what's wrong with it. And now we have a prima facie case for change. The question then becomes, what should we change to? And since the only other economic system that we've ever used is the gold standard, then we should return to the gold standard. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard and put the world on a Keynesian system, and nothing has changed. We continue to experience large swings in the economy, periods of expansion followed inevitably by periods of contraction. In addition, we've accumulated lots of debt. Common sense is conservative, and common sense dictates that when an experiment fails, we return to what it was we were doing before. In this case, the gold standard. When I return, I will tell you how to defeat the left when it comes to socialized medicine and explain the opioid crisis. Thank you. Welcome back. In my last episode, I told you that socialized medicine is something that is so unpopular that the Communist Chinese refuse to use it. And I've always assumed that all socialist countries have socialized medicine. So just for fun, the other day I decided to Google the question, quote, does Communist China have socialized medicine, unquote. The answer came from a website called Inkstone. Quote, in a word, no. China says that it is a socialist country, but a large part of its population struggles to afford medical services. Providing quality health care to a rapidly aging society is now a key challenge faced by the ruling Communist Party, unquote. If you are confronted by the socialists in your life about socialized medicine, single payer, you should ask them why the United States should accept socialized medicine when it isn't practiced in China. Also, there are lefties who will try to tell you that Cuban medicine is the best in the world. You should dismiss that statement as mere political propaganda, not fact. Always remember that the burden of proof is on the left. Don't let them trick you. Don't let them con you that socialized medicine is inevitable, and don't accept political propaganda as a statement of fact. The left likes to claim that change is necessary in our medical market because 38 million people are uninsured. That is not an obvious case for change in our medical care and isn't even a case for change in our insurance system. It is simply an empty statistic used to psychologically pressure you into backing down. don't. When I come back, I'll explain why the left is at fault for the opioid crisis. Thank you very much. And the left is at fault for our opioid crisis because the left dominates our culture. And one of the things that the left tells us is that if it feels good, it must be good, so do it. The left also tells us to be activist. Act first, think later. Add that up with the irresponsibility of the federal government, and that explains the opioid crisis in this country. If shooting heroin feels good, it must be good. So do it and worry about the consequences later. Since we are not a laissez-faire but a regulated economy, then the government must accept at least 50% of the responsibility for allowing illegal drugs to be smuggled into this country and allowing doctors to become drug dealers. So the left encourages drug addiction and the federal government turns a blind eye. If anyone tries to tell you that the pharmaceutical companies are somehow at fault, ask them, why are we paying taxes to a government that is either unable or unwilling to do its job and protect us from harm? Back in a minute. Thank you very much. In conclusion, I've explained why we should return to the gold standard as a matter of reality and not mere dogma, and shown how the lack of socialized medicine in China defeats left-wing arguments, and explained the opioid crisis. Who is a true conservative? He's the person that understands that conservatism is not just about politics, but culture as well. He's not selfish, but minds his own business. He acts like an adult. He's patriotic and uses common sense. He expresses what he knows and does so with absolute certainty. He makes judgments, refuses to speculate, speaks clearly and definitively, and is not afraid to say no. He is open-minded, asking why rather than why not. He is consistent, credible, and influential, not ashamed of his existence, unafraid to learn or correct his mistakes. He is a normal American, and he's better than the socialist. He's a better friend, father, brother, family member, and a better person, period. You have to know that. If you don't know with every fiber of your being that being a true conservative is best, then you are lost. And that brings me to the conclusion of another episode of The Drill. Remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win. True conservatives know that nothing is inevitable. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.